Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to our final studio presentation. We are Austin, Emily, Wenjuan, and Frank, and this is our proposal for 2100 in Baltimore as the reimagined lifestyle with water. Okay, so a crucial observation made by our team in the early stages of this project is Baltimore's susceptibility to flooding and inundation during storms and hurricanes. Looking at these areas through the lens of GIS data gave us a good understanding of where water levels are impacting Baltimore. Using this base point coupled with forecasting outlined by the University of Maryland's Center for Environmental Science, these investigations have shown that with little or no intervention of increasing climate change around the world, Baltimore could potentially be impacted with daily flooding. Most areas close to the waterfront could see at least 15 to 20 feet of inundation every single day. This, of course, would occur with no steps taken to improve the global climate, and we'd like to think that planning for the worst outcome is the best way to treat these predictions. So what does that mean looking visually at this map? The blue areas represent current hurricane inundations, which is probably outdated at this point, but the darkest areas represent greater than 10 feet of inundation, while the lightest areas are 3 feet or less. The green buffer around these areas are what we predict to be the areas that will be completely underwater for up to 365 days out of the year in the year 2100 and beyond. This is also based on predictions that were published in 2018, which, given how we like to plan for the worst, is most likely now outdated. Baltimore as a city has had a long history, which is something that can't be ignored. Making sure that Baltimore remains a culturally viable place for people to enjoy their life is something that should not be scrapped. A priority to consider is how the physical environment of Baltimore will change in the near future and how to maintain this habitat for humans as a home for future residents of Baltimore. Another interesting and important data point to consider is how Baltimore's climate will shift in the next 100 years. It will most likely be more akin to southern Texas, and this is a crucial step to keep in mind as we plan for adapted life in the city. Our schematic for this proposal looks at using ideas and concepts that can work together as a system, but also preserve a modular characteristic. Canals for improving an increasingly saturated urban core, adapted public space and landform for flexible and responsive human programming, and rich ecological kickstarts for immediate and prolonged protection comprises the schematic, which aims to re-envision how all walks of life interact with Baltimore. In order to meet future obligations posed by sea level rise and plan for future pandemic outbreaks, the reimagined lifestyle alongside water will bring a new lifestyle that adapts to and accommodates changes in water level to Baltimore's urban realm. Water is an essential element that connects Baltimore from the coastal region of the Patapsco River to the more urbanized inland. Through this design, it is conceptualized for the 22nd century through urban, terrestrial, and aquatic habitat. With the idea of protecting water, interacting with water, and living with water, the slow landscape is intended to create a resilient, safe environment for residents in Baltimore. This project is intended to use the landscape to solve the problem of sea level rising and flooding, as well as public health issues in the era of a pandemic. Rather than using walls to block the rising of sea water outside, this proposal introduces a modular form of protection into the city and waterfronts of the Baltimore urban area. Recycled building material from the canal concepts are reprocessed into these modules that serve as a backbone for a regenerating ecosystem, as well as protect the urban coast of Baltimore from storm events. The natural force of water is a dynamic that is aimed to be worked with in a synergistic way. Processes like erosion and deposition help to create natural habitats in an increasingly unnatural world. By returning waste construction material back to its foundations as stone and sediment, a reduction in new material production and meaningful public and ecological landscapes can be realized. Pushing beyond these popular seawall ideas of the 2000s, using newly adapted species of tropical plants like mangroves can offer protection and habitat to a growing floral and fauna population. Tried and true recycling wave breakers stop the strongest of wave forces and offer strong structural support for future human expanse into the now thriving Middle Branch restoration zone. The foundational rings used to kickstart this waterfront restoration have served their purpose and have collected much-needed sediment to protect Baltimore's urban edge. With the mangrove population now serving as the anchor for this protection, many more species of plants are able to populate the new protective habitats around the Middle Branch. Finally, deflection structures that serve as the last line of defense during the most intense surges and provide unique public space to refamiliarize people with an emerging waterfront habitat. The key principle throughout this design method is that the force of water is not something that can or should be walled off from urban areas. It is a force that must be worked with and influenced through design, which can be leveraged to create habitats for all walks of life. The islands within Baltimore's growing urban forest play an important role in public health. Shifting the role between social interaction at normal time and social distancing during pandemics, the water and island together are an urban park that transforms into a quarantine landscape when called upon. This area is a transition from coastal to the urban, combining green island, public island, and water together into a whole landscape. During normal times, the urban park provides a space for people to exercise, relax, and interact with natural landscapes and water. While in a period of a pandemic, however, the islands could be separated by water from the canals. In this way, water becomes a media for social distancing, as well as large open spaces, which make possible for pop-up hospitals to be built. Each island contains large areas of open space, which could be transformed from playgrounds when not in use by pop-up hospitals. Canopy trees at the northeast edge of the island serve as wind barriers, preventing air pollution as well as contaminants from going into the urban areas. Shrubs also play an important role in social distancing by creating continuous outdoor seating that is appropriately spaced based on health and safety regulations. Based on sun analysis, the blocks of pop-up hospitals, combined with canopy trees and green space, can create private courtyards for people to enjoy outdoor activities even during times of pandemics. One of the major differences between the natural landscape area and the area suited towards the pandemic is the pop-up hospital. These hospitals are made up of 9 foot by 9 foot by 9 foot modular box units. Based on patient numbers, the box could be combined freely into different layouts. There are two sizes of the island in the quarantine landscape. The larger one is designed for the sick patients and is about 50,000 square meters, which could fit up to 1,000 hospital beds at maximum. Facilities such as the ICU or intensive care unit, the testing center, and hospital rooms are elements in the island of pop-up hospitals. As for the smaller islands with the size of 30,000 square meters, 600 people with light symptoms could stay in these islands. The quarantine community is made up of these other quarantine rooms, which also have kitchens and gyms. This perspective shows the transition between normal time and the pandemic period. During normal time, people enjoy nature and interact with others. And during the potential outbreaks of infectious diseases, water separates the islands and turns them into quarantine landscapes. The primary canals of the entire system accommodate the shipping of goods as well as large-scale public transportation. The secondary canals are weaved into the existing streetscape and have a balance between pedestrian traffic and small aquatic transportation. The tertiary canals create a robust ecosystem for aquatic life, with the addition of a tile design on the canal walls that can promote the growth of microorganisms. This new aquatic habitat can also act as a filter to cleanse the water as it travels through the canal system. The canals not only mitigate the effect of rising sea level, but also improve the lives of individuals living next to them. Introducing a system of canals would also combat urban heat island effect and increasing temperatures through the reduction of impervious surfaces, decreased emissions, and increased evapotranspiration. The courtyard space within each row house block is modified to create a cool microclimate. The combination of tree canopies and wind towers cause the cool air that exists naturally over the canals to be constantly drawn through the space. The tree canopy combined with the existing row houses encloses the courtyard space, allowing the wind tower to function. The tower opening is oriented with the wind direction in order to draw air up through the tower, creating a low pressure zone under the canopy. The cool air over the canals is then drawn into this low pressure zone, cooling the space. Thank you again to all of our critics, classmates, guests, and especially our professor Lisa DuRussel. You rock!